Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another stream of video game news. Today is Monday, May 27th. Let's see. It is also Memorial Day in the United States. Not really affecting me too much other than sales, but I am still starting later than I thought I would be. I got fairly distracted. Speaking of starting later, it is also, I imagine, worth pointing out. Let's see, we've got several secret packs with free pools here. Let's open these up. That there's another event going on, and with another event, there's more work to be done as far as playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And on that aspect, I think I am fairly leaning towards the thought that I'm just going to fall down below gold at the end of this month. Like, there's just not enough days and there's just not enough motivation for me to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Extra to try and get up to ranked. Speaking of motivation, I had a bit of motivation. I said I might do this in the last stream, making a how-to video that would be very much out of my wheelhouse as far as just how I set up Firefox in particular as a browser to be more presentable, to show off the video game news, and how you would use that in a more generic presentation mode. And so I made that video, and then I scheduled it to air at 5 a.m. on Sunday, and it's gotten 3 views. So 3 views might be actually pretty good considering how much I just stabbed it in the gut as a video and didn't really want it to succeed, because inherently I don't want to have yet another how-to video be my second best or my number one best viewed video. But also that is fairly silly and petty to think that way when any YouTuber should just be doing anything and everything they can to get views. But there is a point there certainly to be made, is that I want to just be a YouTuber to be a YouTuber, which is what most kids think they want to do. Kind of in the same way that kids want to be video game testers without really understanding at all how boring and annoying playing a game you're not interested in and doing the same actions over and over again can be, and how much really being a video game tester, like being a video game programmer, even worse than being a video game programmer, really will ruin your enjoyment of the hobby of playing video games. Never make your hobby a job, I believe is a saying people say. But yeah. So yeah, I put out this how-to video. I'm gonna probably look it over. There are some unique things when you put it in the how-to category, in that it pops up a extra box when you put it in the how-to category that is different than video games, obviously. And asks you to type in timestamps and direct questions, really giving you a second bite at the apple as far as titles go, or multiple bites at the apple as far as titles go. And I didn't put any work into it specifically to type in those questions and answers. So yeah, I think I'll probably do that. The idea of potentially having tentpole videos that are completely out of your genre as a YouTube video game or content creator might work. You never know what will work with the YouTube algorithm, because even YouTube doesn't know what the YouTube algorithm would do. But inherently, it also would irritate a lot of people. And there's not only so many how-to videos I could actually make. And I'm not going to put a massive amount of time into them. It still was an hour-long video of me talking. I'm still way too long-winded. But it is, I think, a pretty decent video overall, showing the important things. Let's see if we can negate anything here. Suppose I should go ahead and mention this. The Cardia portable EKG devices, medical devices, if you want to play with those, they're pretty expensive, and who's to really say how accurate they really are compared to a more calibrated hospital EKG, which who's to say that's even that accurate. Those are on sale. There's two versions. There's one that's really thin that looks like a credit card that has a built-in battery. I wouldn't recommend that, because then you're throwing away a $100 device after 2 years because the battery's bad. And then there's an older model that has a coin cell battery. I might recommend that, except for the fact that as soon as I got it and tried to log into the app, it just went to a pure white screen and nothing happened. And so maybe their servers are down just at the moment, I don't know, but I tried for several times over the course of at least an hour trying to log into this app, and that is the only way you can use it. It seems to me, well, it's pretty obvious, they say it directly, that another medical device company, Omron, known more for making blood pressure devices, merged with Cardia, and so the Omron app, which probably is a better app overall, will connect to the Cardia EKG machine. That being said, it seems to be sending kind of a weird signal, like where it shows you like a signal strength in the top right corner when you're trying to hold your finger on these two metal pads for 30 seconds, and the signal strength with my phone right next to it would go from no signal to weak signal to good signal, and it seems like the device itself is transmitting a signal based on perhaps the actual signal it's getting through the human body as an EKG machine, echocardiogram, which seems really weird. So like you have to have your phone right next to it, which is kind of insane. And then the other problem, certainly to be pointed out with the Omron app, is that I was an early adopter on Bluetooth syncable data with a Omron blood pressure cuff, and either I bought one that was for Canada, which seems like that's what the case is, that it's reporting it's a Canadian version instead of a United States version, or it's just broken and not programmed right, because you can see it as a Bluetooth device, but it will not pair at all. Like, And that was a problem like in 2016. So when I got it. So yeah. Maybe that's all fixed now. There is an Omron Total Health device now that might be the better device to look at if you're going to do any of this. But you really don't need to do any of this unless you have a curiosity or money to burn or a specific medical condition. There is definitely an issue, and I'll state this as just my opinion, that the false positives or the random occasional positives of something is just going up higher, and then you may get diagnosed with something like atrial AFib because of what really would have just been something you would have ignored or never even recognized otherwise if you overtest. And then you might be on some kind of medicine, a drug, which has their own side effects and chances of bad reactions. So the medicine might be worse than the cause. That's not to say drugs shouldn't be taken and that the doctors don't know best. Obviously they do, but yeah, doctors often in the past were seeing a patient once a year and running just a few tests and a few lab works. It is if you were seeing a doctor once a month, that would be 12 times the tests and 12 times that you would have an opportunity to find something that otherwise would have just been ignored. We probably will get to a point, though, where there is just a better understanding of when something is an issue and when something isn't. And we probably will get to a point where the cell phones in our pockets will just do everything, or smartwatch you're wearing will just do everything, and you will just have a almost video game like health bar constantly monitoring you for everything that could be constantly monitored. But it probably will take a while. It's not like there's been huge adoption for like iHealth, Apple Health, whatever that's called, or Google Health. They've tried in several waves, and they're getting better at synchronizing and sharing data, but they still are miles away from where they should be. And then I guess the other thing to catch up on is that there's more Fallout New Vegas that I played. I managed to find quite a few extra things that could be done in Fallout New Vegas, and mostly in part by simply going to locations that I just hadn't really been to. I'd walked by them, they'd shown up on the map, but it hadn't started a new quest for me. In particular, there's like a base called Starlight Base, I believe, or Starlight City or something like that, and I walked to the edge of that and found it on the map, but I walked on the back side of the edge, and in that city it is an experimental labyrinth, different from every other location I've seen in Fallout New Vegas, where it is just highly irradiated. The general thought there is that a nuke had been set off in the area, and your quest was to run around looking for items, or a side quest was to run around and look for items in the radiation. And because Fallout New Vegas autosaves every time you walk through a door, a major door, not the minor doors, you are just trapped into that save file. They don't have rolling save files. Even games today still really fail at that, and that really should just be an operating system level thing where all save files are rolled by at least 2 or 3. Of course, if Windows had a proper copy on write system and proper snapshot system, you could get around most of those problems pretty quickly. But yeah, I walked through a door as I was getting radiation. Once you have your radiation to the maximum, it reduces your health by 10,000 points, effectively killing you. There's really no way around that. Your health is usually going to be around 300 or 400. It's definitely not going to be above 10,000. So I died when walking through the door after about a second. Exactly 1 second, I would imagine. And then it would load the autosave, which is what it does when you die. It just reloads the autosave. It doesn't even tell you anything or give any suggestions, things you would see in more modern games. And so then it loads the autosave where I had just walked out of the door and I was at max radiation, so I died again. And again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And I was just trapped in this loop. Now fortunately I'm playing on PC, and I had already found out because of another glitch in the game, and I will call this a glitch because inevitably they should have rolling snapshots of saves, but they also should have like a few seconds of immortality when you're walking out of a building and loading into a new area. That is very much not the case. There's been many instances where I've walked through doors and been immediately attacked or immediately engaged in combat walking through a door, or immediately detected if I'm trying to be sneaky, which you really cannot be sneaky in this game at all. So yeah, there was a real problem there. I had to unplug my Xbox controller so I could use mouse and keyboard inputs first. Then I had to type in the tilde symbol to get in the console, and then just type in TGM to toggle God mode. Then from toggling God mode, I was able to walk out of the city, which the entire city is irradiated, so my plan really was mostly to walk out of the building I was leaving and then run to the edge of the city, but I would have never made it. And the city should be just completely full of the radiation reducing pills right away, and there's a decent amount in the city, way more than any other location, but not enough. And it's not like I've been hoarding those pills or even finding those pills throughout the other previous 100 hours of gameplay. You would almost certainly probably want max radiation to not just reduce your health by 10,000 instantaneously, but instead just reduce your health by 1 every few seconds. Or 1 every second even. 1 health per second would give me roughly 300 seconds, so about 5 minutes to get out of the city. Even that's pretty generous. So maybe you take out 10 per second, and then that would give you 50 seconds. So less than a minute. That seems much more realistic. But yeah, to just instantly kill you is not really adding anything to the gameplay. In that bottom half, I will say, of New Vegas is the more experimental early game development stuff, I would suspect. And it certainly explains why once you get to the top half, it is very generic and boring. The other bugs, and that's mostly what I've been running into, are that there's a point when the new California Republic's president is going to visit and you're acting as security detail, and you're trying to protect him. You can do that quest and start that quest from 2 different spots. They did a terrible job of programming it so that you can't start the quest a second time. And years later, decades later, it may be at least 20 years later, they still haven't fixed that. So you can just pretend like you're starting the quest a second time, but then you can't talk to the person in charge. So that quest is just stuck because I played out of order. I would at this point recommend having at least a companion walkthrough and probably just a complete walkthrough of New Vegas, even on your first playthrough. I think you'll just have a smoother experience and you're not going to really spoil yourself too much because you're highly unlikely to side with Caesar and his legion, who are pretty obviously the bad guys. It definitely feels like what they were trying to do was to say that the new California Republic and the people of the New Vegas Strip were I think the thought here would have been that the people of the Strip and the NCR would have been the civilized people in the center of the map for the most part, against the more tribal, almost Native American analogy of the Great Khans. The problem with trying to have a balanced argument on that is, while I might have some sympathy for the Great Khans, I'm really not going to have any sympathy to or want to side with the Kim fiends, who are just drug addicts, and the other gangs that are violent. Straight up, one of them is literally a rapist. Yeah, you're just not going to really side with that. And then Caesar's legion does not value women at all and enslaves them, and is very much pro-slavery and crucifixions. So even before you know much about Caesar, the first time you're going to see him, more than likely you're going to see his people crucifying and burning people alive. It's definitely nowhere close to the war story that's told in Skyrim, where it feels like you very much could have sided with one side or the other. And as far as I can tell, it doesn't really play out in New Vegas like the war in Skyrim. There's actually very few quests that feel like they're directly connected to the battle, that aren't just the main story. Inherently, the main story in Skyrim is that you're a dragonborn and eventually you realize you're fighting a dragon. There's not a secondary main story. It is just the NCR fighting Caesar's legion. And then it comes down to, who do you want to side with, who do you want to not side with as far as factions, and which factions are you going to just actively be encouraged to completely annihilate? Which that is one thing that I think New Vegas does that's at least a little bit different from Fallout 3 is that they really do push you and encourage you to kill everybody in certain cities, even if you are a good guy. So yeah. But overall, as far as Fallout New Vegas, I've spent probably about 10 hours trying to avoid finishing the game's main story, and I'm running out of things to do. And it definitely does not feel anything like the Amazon Prime Fallout TV series. Of course, the Fallout TV series was maybe 12-hour long episodes at most, whereas you're going to be 100 plus hours playing Fallout New Vegas. But there is something to be said about being short and sweet as far as the concepts of telling stories in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. So yeah, I question what really is going to happen as far as the second season of Fallout, the Amazon Prime Fallout TV series. That yeah, I don't know what else could really happen there. But it's probably only a little spoiler for New Vegas to say that, as far as I understand the story, having not really read most of the story in New Vegas, the main person in charge, Mr. House, really was out of the picture and not taking any actions for a long period of time. So the events of the second season of the Fallout TV show probably are going to take place before that, or it is really just a case that they're going to walk through New Vegas and then leave. To some other new area. That would be my guess as to what they would do. It's kind of crazy that he would just walk his way. The end of the Fallout TV series, no spoilers for that, ends up with a character in New Vegas when they're starting in California, Hollywood, in that area. It's just hundreds and hundreds of miles that you would have to have walked there. It's kind of not realistic at all, considering the hostile life in the Fallout universe. And I guess that's probably more than I want to even talk about as far as Fallout. Yeah. I'm finding less and less things to actually say about Fallout New Vegas or the Fallout TV series. And yeah, hype around that TV series couldn't have lasted for that long. Like, everybody's just gonna marathon through those things, and a week or two after everybody's done watching it, it's not a TV show that stands up to second rewatches or third rewatches, I'm sure, back to back. People might go back and rewatch it a year from now. I was watching a Korean drama called Heartbeat, and it was about this like kind of childish vampire character, and he was dressed in one way for the first few episodes, and I had to actually pause it and see the Amazon X-ray to see if it was even the same Korean actor, and it says it is, but about halfway through the series, he gets a haircut and he just looks completely different, or he may have even had some kind of plastic surgery. I wouldn't be surprised if Korean male actors get plastic surgery. And so he just looked like a completely different character. But even before I reached that point, I had lost interest in the show. It wasn't really doing anything too unique or interesting. So yeah, I stopped watching that, which means I'll have to find something else to watch if I am going to waste my time and watch something else. It definitely feels like for this Memorial Day weekend, and even a few days before that, I've been checking for sales a little too much and not really finding them, so not spending too much money, but yeah, I've been spending too much time on that and not enough time doing anything else, like playing Tinka Fuma on my phone, the adult game, which I'm still playing. And yeah, they have a new event happening and they're about to start yet another new event. And then I'm still playing Memento Mori. I'm falling behind on that with 2 accounts. And I'm in this weird position where I don't really know how to fix the fact that I have 2 accounts, so that I would get back to just playing 1 account without also losing a lot of progress. So yeah, playing with 2 accounts, I really should have never made that second account. That would give me more free time. Of course, I have to make good use of my free time and actually make YouTube content or do something else efficient and effective, and not just sit around sleeping. So since it's Memorial Day weekend, I don't think really you're gonna expect too much news. As it is, let's see. Oh, it's my turn. My turn, and I can't do anything. The game Plague Inc. from Endemic Creations is, I believe, hitting its 12th anniversary now, 12th birthday. It's a game I covered. It was one of the very first games I covered on my channel, which my channel is now up to over 15,000 videos. So yeah, it's been a long journey. A long, very, very unsuccessful journey. Huge waste of time. Yep. As most people would probably describe it. Not that I think I would have done much of anything else in the same time frame. I don't think I can kill this guy, so... Because I don't think I can kill this guy, I think I'm doomed. So this guy can just use one of my characters as a summon material. That's crazy. Video Games Chronicle says Warner Brothers is, quote, threatening to destroy a popular Mortal Kombat YouTube channel. It's been claimed clips from the mods have amassed over 1 billion views. I'd assume this is a mod that puts Dr. Phil in Mortal Kombat. Cease and desist. IP infringement notification directly from Warner Brothers. Mods. Inherently, apparently he modded Disney characters into his games. Yeah, inherently I think this is probably copyright infringement on the face of it. Like, maybe the laws should be changed. Absolutely, I will grant that as a counter argument, but as the laws are currently written, I think putting Disney characters or Dr. Phil in Mortal Kombat 1 is probably infringing both Disney's copyright and in possibly some ways infringing the copyright of Mortal Kombat 1 itself. And this definitely feels like one of those stories that is the same story over and over again. I end up saying that it just really goes to show you should not make mods for games, no matter how cool you think the parties involved might be. It's gonna bite you in the butt. Now, one of the things you might do if you were going to do a mod like this is, first of all, do it all anonymous. Like, totally fake names, fake accounts, don't ask for any money ever. Publish it on some deep web, dark web website type thought. But they still probably would catch you. So yeah, I'd say first do it anonymous. Second, more legally, don't use the name. So if, for instance, the mod said the Phil or Mr. Phil, and the character looked like Dr. Phil, that's much safer as far as parody or fair use arguments might be made, in that you aren't actively naming the characters. If you didn't use, say, Mickey Mouse, but said the Mouse or something like that, then there would be room for a better defense legally. But copyright effectively is always playing the defensive, in that copyright people, owners, are going to sue. It definitely seems like Warner Brothers, as now owned by AT&T, doesn't want any part of these mods, and so they have proactively sent a cease and desist on behalf of things they don't even own the copyrights to, it seems. And yeah, somebody saying, well, this is destroying your channel. Maybe that's true, but in fact your channel is built on a house of cards, as it were, because you didn't build it on anything that was wholly and uniquely owned by you. And I'm not one to really point blame too much on that. Like, I can brag about having 15,000 videos, but they are all full of long plays with me talking over them. So yeah, if YouTube just decided they don't want video game long plays, that would quote destroy my channel, or literally destroy my channel, if all video game companies said they don't want even fair use things, and the laws agreed with even fair use commentary over video game long plays not being good enough. That would destroy my channel. But there is also just a certain point where you should have seen that coming. See. And I would have to say this is probably a news story that Video Games Chronicle put out because they were just low on news stories, because it's like they haven't even gotten a response from Warner Brothers when they requested for comments, and it's pretty obvious what's happening here. Small follow-up, I suppose, and I probably won't do it justice with all the accurate information, but yeah, DF Retro had some affiliation of some sort with a lot of the mainstream video game news sites that had been acquired, I believe, by ReedPop a couple days ago. And so in their newest weekly video podcast, they mention that and they talk about it and basically have nothing to say. As far as they're concerned, nothing seems to have really changed. Of course, nothing will be admitted as changed until it is completely changed. Like any merger, it's always, everything will be the same. Nobody's getting laid off. It's all going to be the same. Nothing's changing. And then days, weeks, months later, even years later, you start to see a change happen directly attributable to that merger. There have been a few examples where nothing does change for several years, and then all of a sudden a new person is in charge and things do start changing. Change is inevitable. Here we have another story, but man, I have very few stories today. A jury, I believe, or this says court, has found that a Destiny 2 cheat seller infringed on a copyright in a landmark case. It's the first time a cheat seller has been found liable for copyright infringement. This would be Aim Junkies. I wish I knew more of this. Some of the complaint was partially dismissed in 2022. It claims that the software violated the DMCA anti-circumvention provision, led to a $4.3 million penalty. Like, of course, Aim Junkies won't have any money, I'm sure. In a separate case primarily focused on the previously dismissed copyright side of the argument, a Seattle jury has found that Aim Junkies, its website's operating company, Phoenix Digital Group, and a third-party developer, James May, were all liable for copyright infringement. See, that's all you get, is you get two sentences here in a paragraph. 63,210. So apparently 4.3 million for circumventing the DMCA, and then 63,000 for actually infringing on copyright. There was a counterclaim which did not go through. And so that is very much a case where I'd like to understand where the jury was thinking and what piece of evidence and what arguments were made in that court case to say that Aim Junkies had violated copyright. Inherently, if he had stolen code from Destiny 2 to make well, not just stolen it, but then reused code from Destiny 2 to make the hack and the cheats, then that would be copyright infringement. But also, it is very possible the jury just threw the book at him and didn't really care, and didn't really understand the argument being made. Unfortunately, this does create a precedence, certainly, that we are going to see even more cases of cheat makers, which most gamers wouldn't side with anyways, or at least half of the gamers wouldn't side with cheat makers. But yeah, we're going to see more of them getting sued specifically for copyright infringement. And now there will be a precedent there. And I would argue that it's another case where there ought to be a different law to target that specific action and say society does not accept that action, instead of there being roundabout loopholes in other laws to have companies try and stop certain actions. The making of cheats is either something society has to say we should outlaw this, or we should canon this and say it is okay to make cheats, which inherently in multiplayer game it's a different experience than in single player games if you're making cheats. And if we were to really step back and look at the society in the United States, since this is United States law, cheating is pretty well accepted. Cheating happens in sports all the time, and the players get insignificant slaps on the wrist. The US government doesn't really step in much. So, you know, students in school cheat on tests all the time. Cheat in school all the time. And frankly, there's been even some teachers and school systems that just encourage cheating. So yeah, and we always pretend like it's not acceptable, but in reality it happens all the time. It's really the only way you can get ahead. If you're a billionaire, you're cheating in some way, whether it's on taxes or not following regulations. If you're an absolute homeless person, broke, you're cheating in some ways to just get by. There's no real equity or equitable playing field for life and society in the United States, or probably anywhere, which is perhaps a problem with the idea of trying to create equity, although by all means try and create it, see how far you can get. Any little bit would help. But yeah, definitely feels like it would be overkill and ridiculous to allow crackdowns on cheating in video games where it is the least relevant form of cheating, and yet baseball players, football players, basketball players are all cheating, using steroids and drugs often to cheat, and the outcomes of all of those games are being gambled on in Vegas and other places in a highly regulated manner, with the wild card of the unregulated cheating and drug use of the sports players. And that's not even the talk about the refs, who I think often, I think maybe getting bribes to call a game one way versus another. Yeah, even if you made the argument that esports is a big business. It is nowhere as big of a business as professional football, basketball, baseball. I feel like I'm doing fairly well with this deck, considering as much as I'm not really paying attention to it. Continue down this path. This should be the last game we play. Can we go any higher? That didn't work. Minecraft, and I'm not going to be reporting on Minecraft for much longer after their 15-year anniversary. But apparently MC Championship X Minecraft is some kind of crossover, and they are again just promoting it. So it definitely feels like what the move here was that they hired a bunch of people, or asked a bunch of people to make videos and promote Minecraft for the 15-year anniversary. Also doing several Twitch items and related items. And yeah, they're still giving away costumes, but it doesn't seem like they're really doing too much else. Censored Gaming put some more details in his video. How Paper Mario Remake changes Vivian's gender depiction. It still changes things a little bit because it's not word for word, and it's still not, I think, exactly the same way you would have experienced the original game, but for the most part, I think the way Vivian's gender depiction of her being, I think it probably from the Japanese original version, what would be best described as trans, but even the idea of being transgendered in Japanese history and society may mean something fairly different than what people in the West are thinking. Yeah, I think the newest release is probably fairly close to what the original intent is, and that if there is a slight difference, I think it is probably just a lost in translation difference. So inherently, I would have to win 1, 2, 3, 4 times before tomorrow in this quest to get this card protector. And then I would immediately give up on that, and then instead show up and try and play this, which there's a few more days for this to get to platinum. I need 4 more wins to get to 1, then I would need probably 4 or 5 more wins after that. And I imagine that there was just some festival quests that we didn't quite do. Duel 1 more time in the festival and I would get 20 more gems. Duel, see, 2 more times and I would get 50 gems. Duel another 5 times, I get another 50 gems. As far as all of that though, I definitely am in a weird position now where I have a decent amount of gems for when the next expansion happens, but that gems are not going to translate into being able to catch up for a lack of playing when it comes to ranks, at least. We are continuing to make enough progress that I think the gold version of the pass is worth still getting. It is mostly giving us crafting points in that case though, and crafting points are fairly useless. There's just not enough of them. Libretto put out a video showing off the audio text-to-speech feature, which I think pretty much is just text-to-speech inside the actual application, not the games themselves. That would be more difficult to say the least. Then voiceover narration, try Quake, PR boom crash fixes, fixing external keyboards. Yeah, that is pretty much all the news there is to talk about. So we will quickly look through here. If I was going to get really fancy, now that I think about it, Steam, I would potentially get the blue out of Steam and just make it more of a probably dark mode website would be my guess as to what I would want to do. One of the problems with my how-to videos that I kept trying to show off the middle mouse click, but when you are at the Firefox store, that is one of the few places where give this a chance, it's probably nothing. It's one of the few places where none of your extensions add-ons actually will work. So I was showing off Firefox add-ons plugins and thus had a bunch of pages open to the Firefox store. Doki Doki AI interrogation. This game claims to have Chat GPT in it. I'm gonna say no to that. And then I guess if something is mixed, it just needs to leave the following list and it's not going to get another YouTube short. That is one thing. I have managed to get a lot of YouTube shorts scheduled in the past couple days because I've just been doing other things. There is definitely a danger when I have my macros running and scheduling YouTube shorts that I can use that just as an excuse in my mind to not do something more productive, or that is at least something that I would have to actually actively engage with, since the YouTube short scheduling is pretty much 100% automated. And the YouTube shorts are still working, getting me views. Inherently, the accusation has been thrown out that Google, and I would assume YouTube as a subsidiary of Google, this is also true, sometimes just panics and tries to copy other people's ideas, like TikTok, for instance, and so they've made the YouTube shorts to copy that so that they don't potentially have all of their audience leave. Now this is interesting. At some point we may start to see mobile phone games that are visual novels in particular come to PC or Steam. But yeah, nobody's really making portrait monitors or encouraging people to turn their monitors to portrait mode, so and I don't think, even if every single mobile game was available, or mobile app was available on Windows, even in that case I still don't think that would convince people to turn their monitors 90 degrees. Yeah. As perhaps one of the few things that cell phones actually did revolutionize is a whole new operating system was needed just to convince people to embrace portrait. We have another garbage game pretending like there's more adult content in it than it really has, I'm sure. Here we have Save Daddy Trump 4 MAGA 2024. You would think maybe Valve would say no to something like that. Anything with Trump in the name, anything with MAGA in the name should be red flagged and looked at. It's just your submission has triggered an automatic review. We'll get back to you in 48 hours. Should really be how that works. Though it doesn't seem like it really is that way. It does seem just so crazy that you would be so incredibly hands-off on that. I guess I could make some actual political statement here in that just a few hours ago the Libertarian Party chose somebody else to be their presidential candidate pick. I'm not sure how many states in the United States actually have the Libertarian Party listed on the ballots or allow for a third party candidate really at all. But yeah, Trump tried to give a speech there, got booed, and he seemed to have gotten 1% of the voters there. And so I say all of this because in the past, Valve has definitely tried to say they were a libertarian company, that they were leaning towards a very hands-off way of doing things, but what they mean by libertarian may be very different from the political party of the libertarians. And that was a while ago, so that may not really be the way Gabe Newell feels, or the other people who are secretly in charge of Valve feel. Yeah. If I was a Walmart manager, I definitely wouldn't let random people. Here's that game that was delayed a week because of Hades. It is mostly positive so far. Still don't really get why his skin is all pink and almost CGA in its color palette. But yeah, if I was a Walmart manager, what kind of game is this? This is just Find Cats. Once again, I wouldn't just allow random people to pay me $100 to put a product on the shelf. That would be insanity. The lawsuits would just come flooding in, I'm sure. But even if I did do that, I would be incredibly cautious as to what products were being put on the shelf, and I would know what products were being put on the shelf. I wouldn't rubber stamp the whole process like Valve has. Meanwhile, I guess there's also probably still some rumors and speculation around Valve's new game, Deadlock. Let's see. Yep. And see, that was very few games that came out over the weekend. Too. As far as 24-hour peaks, if you ignore the first three numbers, it starts to drop down fairly low fairly quickly. And overall, it still doesn't seem like too much has changed. I think what has happened here, and it would be a good argument to say that for as long as it's taking me to finish Fallout New Vegas, it's going to take even longer for your average player to finish Fallout 4, and thus Fallout 4 is going to remain in about the 15th spot for a couple of months. I am noticing also Fallout 4 came out in 2015, we're in 2024, so we're approaching a 10-year anniversary for the latest Fallout single player game. That is shocking, really. Fallout 76 came out in 2020, so we're approaching a 5-year anniversary for Fallout 76. But I also don't think they can just turn things around and make Fallout 76 have a single player mode. New Vegas is in the 69th spot, and it's from 14 years ago. Yeah. So there's been way more time in between Fallout 4 and a Fallout 5 potentially. Yeah, in a very real way. There's no way to say it nicely. Bethesda just sucks when it comes to releasing games in a reasonable amount of time. And frankly, if they release more games more frequently, they probably would learn how to make games better in general and at least pivot more. I definitely, in playing Fallout New Vegas, get the feeling that Todd Howard is just a big old man-child. Or somebody is. Maybe it's not Todd Howard, but let's just assume it is Todd Howard, since he's supposedly in charge. Somebody is a big man-child, though, and they make some very rigid, childish decisions about what Bethesda games must have in them when there is no logical reason for it to be that way. having an open world is a big argument to be made. It might very well be the case that open worlds are just not really that necessary, when more linear but large areas might make more sense in levels. Having toilets in every single city when there's nothing to do in the toilets, kind of silly that people are wasting their programming and level design and modeling for all of that. Having shopkeepers leave the shop, really dumb thought. Having shopkeepers not be immortal. I ran into a shopkeeper that was not immortal. Some random enemies spawned, they killed him. I can never shop at that shop now. And it's not even like you get all the items that was in the shopkeeper's inventory when he gets killed. So there's no trade-off to that at all. And then there are some just kind of ridiculous things missing in New Vegas that make it a worse game by far. Yeah, and I haven't worked on my charts to eliminate this gap or some of these other gaps, but overall I'd say we're seeing about average experience. Some people are dropping down from Apex Legends and Morocco Blade Point and GTA, where Rust and Stardew Valley staying about the same. Baldur's Gate 3 seems to have gotten a bit of a resurgence, so is also Rainbow Six. Yeah, in Power World, at some point, yeah, I think this is the overall number of players, the highest number ever, where it probably should be the highest number today in this order. Yeah, I don't know how to program that though. And then here we have just a regular Steam website. Open world survival crafting is happening as a sale, it looks like, but there's seem not a big push there. So I'm trying to do something else with my phone. I'm hearing banging outside, and I'm not sure if this is a case of fireworks, which would make the most sense. Yep, this looks like it's probably fireworks. Looking at my security cameras, just making sure nothing big is happening. Yeah, definitely seems like everything is just a little slow at the moment over this Memorial Day weekend. Not really sure why Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is not on my wish list, though. I would see. Overall, it does have a single player mode. I think it is time to put that on the wish list too, even though it does have the whole issue with having to sign into the PlayStation Network. Now I'm looking at the headlines today, and there is actually very few headlines, so I'm gonna make a special request at the end that people see if you can click on the videos tab on my YouTube page and scroll down and find that how-to video. I would like positive feedback or constructive criticism. If it's really constructive, ask yourself if you're being constructive or not on that video. Like, it's not something I plan on doing ever again, really. Maybe I'll make one or two in the rest of my lifetime there probably are some other things I could explain as far as how I make my content that would be helpful, but yeah, if people would watch that video as an extra today and leave comments, that'd be helpful, or just like the video and leave it running all the way to the end so it gets that watch time. Like the thought here would be a how-to might bring in a new audience who might not know that they might be interested in my type of video game content, or it might just get me enough subscribers to bump me over to 1,000. Still wouldn't really do anything to get me close enough to 4,000 watch hours, however, so I would have to really snowball and have thousands if not millions of views, and then that would have to get me thousands of subscribers to then bump up my watch time, just as a natural offset of that to get monetized, or have at least a chance of being monetized. Let's go through the Video Games Chronicle headlines, though I really only have about 6 of them. Dragon's Quest III HD 2D remake has been teased for the first time in 3 years. Nothing has been seen of this game since it was announced in 2021. So, I don't fully understand what an HD 2D remake means. I'd assume that Dragon's Quest III, since they're up to Dragon's Quest XI, was a 2D game. So, they're remaking it still as a 2D game. That would be my guess. Yeah, that would definitely be what I assume, is that they're remaking it as a 2D game, but at a higher resolution. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see several old games like this get remade just using AI generated art, or just upscaling technology to take pixely images and add detail that was not there originally. A court finds that Destiny 2 cheat seller infringed on copyright in a landmark case. Sega flat out rejected the first 2 pitches for Yakuza, the creator Nagoshi says. Warner Brothers is, quote, threatening to destroy, end quote, a popular Mortal Kombat YouTube channel. Inherently, Toasted Shoes channel being destroyed, I don't think affects me much at all. Although, when you start to talk about cheating for making cheats and being sued for that, people making mods by using the likeness of other people and just scanning in instead of handcrafting mods, which is what I would assume this mostly is, are probably cheating compared to actual creative mod makers who are making characters from scratch. And Toasted Shoes making a YouTube channel that is all about highlighting mods in a fairly lazy effort is kind of cheating compared to what most other video game equivalent YouTube channels would be doing. I doubt we'll get any follow-up on the story, nor do I think something is going to happen here where Toasted Shoes is going to be saved in any way. Neil Druckmann claims he was misquoted by Sony over the redefining gaming comment. Quote, "That's not quite what I said." Which, maybe that just means there was a curse word in the middle there, for all you know. Redefine mainstream perception of gaming. He was quoted as saying that his next title could redefine mainstream perceptions of gaming. Neil Druckmann took to social media on Friday to claim he never made those comments and published what he claimed to be the unredacted words in full, suggesting that Sony's version was heavily edited to the point where the context was lost. The post suggested Sony removed the line in which game designer stated that he doesn't believe games need to be movies or need to be TV shows, which I'm fairly certain Sony wants games to be movies and TV shows. They've put billions of dollars into trying to do that in the past. And Sony, I think, at least maybe in Japan, is going to start focusing more on making money on anime. I think they said that in a recent shareholder meeting in the past few days in Japan. Which, yeah, they aren't really going to make it selling Walkmans and TVs. Although it's not uncommon for corporate comms teams, or whatever ridiculous shortening of communication teams, to edit quotes for clarity and brevity, it's unusual for the subject of such a comment to publish the original unedited words. In editing my rambling answers in my recent interview with Sony, some of my words, context, and intent were unfortunately lost. Well, here's the long rambling answer to the final question about the future of games. About our future game. And so you can see the tweet here, but then it's just a picture of the actual comment. So still we're not getting the full comment. Let's just click on the picture and see what it says. Yeah, it's a whole bunch. Yeah. Blah 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 blah. Was this written, or did he have to write this after the fact? Yeah. This is a really long answer, and I don't see how you can ethically, as a journalist, take this long of an answer and rephrase it, not even using these same words to try and say the same thing. Why even make it a response at that point? You could simply have had the interviewer, who is not even named here, say that we finished with a long conversation about where his future game was going. Is what I got from that conversation, and just summarize it that way. Yeah, I could see why Neil Druckmann see if we can get it. I'm eager to see how the new game resonates, especially following the success of The Last of Us, as it could redefine mainstream perceptions of gaming. Let's see if we can even find that I'm eager part. I'm also excited to see how the world reacts to it. I'm very excited to see what the reaction for this thing will be. Yeah. But this also potentially shows us just how much an interviewer would straight up probably rewrite a lot of people in interviews, and most interviewed people just don't bother to come back and say that's not really what I said. I mean, this really doesn't make Neil Gaiman look good. He's labeling himself as Neil Druckmann here. pretty sure. Yeah, his name is Neil Druckmann. I'm confusing him with the author of the Sandman comic book series, Neil Gaiman. Yeah, this doesn't make Neil Druckmann look better by showing how much he rambles. Or he comes off as super excited / possibly high in this long kind of response. But yeah. At a certain level, though, the project manager or studio head really should be a cheerleader, so them being very excited about things is not a terrible way to go. A new Astrobot will be revealed in weeks, it's being claimed. And a Nintendo is opening an official store in San Francisco next year. Now I do have slightly more Gamatsu.com articles today, which would make sense because the weekend in Japan would not really be a Memorial Day weekend. They would have their Memorial Day or Memorial weekends at different times, and there haven't been too many occasions where Japan wanted to celebrate the veterans of the United States, and there's been more occasions where the veterans of the United States were fighting Japan. But yeah, so more business as usual, it seems. Jujutsu Kaisen Clash DLC Hidden Inventory / Premature Death launches May 30th alongside a free update. This Jujutsu Kaisen anime, which this game is based off of, has really passed me by. It's either really not as popular as the game would imply it is, or I have just overlooked it, both of which are very possible. Microids announces an adventure game called Arsène Lupin Once a Thief for all consoles and PCs. The name Lupin for a famous thief is used in many stories. I don't know where its origin actually comes from, though. Lupin the Third is an old anime movie series that was very famous. But the thing here is that actually playing as a thief doesn't work as much as you might like it to, and so effectively you just have a point and click adventure happening here instead of a game like Thief, for example. Dragon Quest III in HD 2D has been confirmed for the PS5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC. Seems like all they released was this little teaser video, and I don't think that there's any links to it on Steam or anywhere else. Yuju Horai on Dragon Quest XII, The Flames of Fate, says, I want it to be worthy of Akira Toriyama and Koichi Sugiyama's posthumous work. This would be two people who had some major influence on the Dragon Quest series have passed. Yeah. In fact, Dragon Quest XII might be the final game in a series of Dragon Quest games, or it might be a line in the sand where Dragon Quest just changes to something very different. Or it also could just be very similar. But yeah, with people dying, that next game is going to have to be made by new people. And it's going to at least feel a little different, and reception might be a little different there. I imagine most Japanese people will buy Dragon Quest XII just because there's still a little bit of these two people's work in it. It'll very likely be more Dragon Quest 13. And 13 is a good number to reboot the series or just not make anymore. The quintessential quintuplets Gotsu Pazu story second launches September 26th in Japan. Seems like they're putting out these visual novel games very quickly. Tekken 8's DLC character Lydia Sobieska has a gameplay trailer. She looks like a somewhat interesting new character to throw in there. And one little scar across the face isn't too much for me, but it also feels very weird to have that much makeup on somebody and not cover up the scar more in makeup. I had a comedic thought when I was playing Fallout New Vegas that perhaps the reason that so many of the characters are ugly in the Fallout universe with dirty faces is because they are actively covering their face in dirt so that they are not attracting slavers and rapists in the wilds. Same might be true, or at least that can be your own headcanon for the Elder Scrolls Skyrim universe, that the characters are intentionally making themselves ugly, or it could also just be like sunscreen, lack of soap. Yeah, soap is a fairly difficult thing to create, so it would disappear fairly quickly from society if you don't continue to make more of it. The weekly Japanese game releases are Umbra Claw, Wizman's World, Retry, and more. Don't think I've really heard of any of these. Yeah. Riders Spirits for the PS4 and 5, Xbox One and Series, and Switch launches June 7th. Aqua Plus teases a new Two Heart and Utaware Ru Mono project coming in 2025. That definitely seems like just a tease. Hotel Barcelona at the Indie Live Expo 2024 trailer and screenshots are available on Gematsu.com. This Hotel Barcelona definitely looks like a fairly weird game, and that definitely catches my attention. Rhythm adventure game Yun Yun Syndrome Rhythm Psychosis has been announced for PC. I believe Hotel Barcelona is also being made from the creators of Deadly Premonition and maybe the original first Resident Evil creator working together. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm right about that. But yeah, if this is a game I'm thinking of, this might be a game being made by two fairly famous weirdo game creators. Then there's Rhythm Game. I really can't get much from the screenshots, but I'll still give it a chance. Odin Cat announces an action-adventure game called Mousebusters for PC. Obviously, a Ghostbusters parody of some sort. Not sure that really is going to end up being a game worth playing, though. The rhythm game Kimi Kiawa Genkai Beat Chan and Pastel Parade for PC are going to be published by Room 6. So, publishers effectively just announcing two games they're publishing. Alliance Arts, Acquire, and WS Playground announced a poker-themed adventure RPG called All in Abyss, Judge the Fate for PC. This definitely feels like somebody saw what Belartro did and realized that they could do it too, which is kind of a great move for gaming in general, is because it still is pretty difficult to find a good reason to play like a poker game on Steam or buy a poker game. Tabletop Simulator is about the best. On the other hand, this might create a weird situation where if I was to play this, the anime visuals may be too lewd or too inappropriate, and may also be a situation where playing a card game, which this looks like poker. This may not actually be poker though. Yeah, a game like this could also easily go off the rails or be too grindy. And the last thing I would want to do is try and cover a poker game that was going to take 500 hours to play. Unless I was going to use it to replace Yu-Gi-Oh! And I just don't think a game like this would be consistent enough to really replace something like Yu-Gi-Oh! Hookah Haze launches July 11th. This is another weird direction to see anime visuals go, and that it is a visual novel point and click of a hookah bar. I'm not sure how popular hookah really is in Japan, but I imagine it's more popular than you would think. Blade Chimera has been delayed to August. So, should I make a YouTube short based on a game that's been delayed? Nope. A multi-ending escape adventure game called Type Noise Shonen Shoujo has been announced for PC. Now, unless I'm forgetting what shonen and shoujo is, that may be a hint as to what the story is actually going to be. My question here is multiple ending game. I wonder if 999 is an example of a multiple ending game. Because generally, I would think most visual novels tend to branch off and have multiple endings. And while most visual novels would be happy if you tried to see every single ending, most people are not going to do that. But a few visual novels I have played, like 999, really do require you to see every ending, and that takes a lot of time. This definitely feels like a very weird game. More of a joke experience, I would say, or strange experience. Boyhood's End launches in early access on September 6th for PC. Oops, just close the tab there. Is this bruises on the back of this guy? It looks like it. Let's see. Kimono Tea Time launches this fall. I don't feel like I'm very high energy today, but whatever. We're going to be done here in a few minutes. It's going to be a short stream. A high-tension adventure game, Ultra Mushroom, has been announced for PC. Yeah, kind of crazy to describe your game as high-tension, but maybe that's the right way to describe something like this, because this definitely feels like something where you're going to be rushing, and it's going to be closer to like one of those WarioWare games where you just have a few seconds to figure out what to do and do it. So you do not need to just open a new tab. Click the wrong button there. There still are definitely some things I'd like to customize as far as the overall layout of Firefox. Move some buttons around. But yeah, most apps don't let you do that. The mystery adventure game Feeling Death for PC, iOS, and Android is going to be published by Room 6. This looks like a fairly old art style, pixely graphics. Doubt that this is actually going to be any much of a game, but whatever. The adventure game Drink Rhyme for PC is going to be published by Room 6. Definitely feels like Room 6 is publishing some fairly minimal games. There definitely is an argument that maybe these games are a little too minimal to be on Steam, but you can't really make that argument without curating Steam a lot better and getting rid of a lot worse games. Scars of Mars launches June 20th. Now this feels like this potentially was a bigger presentation, but if it was, I don't know what the presentation was. I know there was a like Tokyo Game Show like event that was about to happen, but I don't know if it did happen, and that's where all this came from. Piggy 1 Super Spark Steam store page has been opened. Which, that's an interesting way to phrase things. An action horror third-person shooter called Nightmare Operator at the Indie Live Expo 2024. Trailer and screenshots are available on Gematsu.com. I guess maybe this was the big event, was the Indie Live Expo. There was always this weirdness where you're trying to have zombies that tend to need to look pretty realistic, and then you have a blue-haired anime girl. Otherwise, it doesn't really feel like those kinds of things can ever really work in the same game. A horror adventure game banned the prologue of Gucha Gucha for PC launches this fall. We may very well have hit a point now where enough indies are starting to put their games on Steam and put out press releases that I might have to revisit my thought about making a YouTube short for every game that puts out a press release. I could probably put that off for years though. On the backside of that though, the fact that we're seeing a bunch of Japanese games listing themselves on Steam, indie games in particular, weirder games, that does seem to imply that PC gaming is on the rise in Japan, or at least it's expected to be on the rise. Yeah, we may very well see that the Japanese audience is just not willing to buy the next Nintendo Switch as their main console, or the next PlayStation as their next main console. They may still buy them anyways, but they may just use them less and less. The text-based adventure game Moonless Moon has been announced for PC. Which that is something I think probably crosses a line where I don't think I'm even willing to make a YouTube short. I guess I will. Sorry, I'm yawning. I'm probably going to fall asleep after this and have accomplished very little today. The star named EOS adds a PS5 and Xbox Series versions and has been delayed to summer. It always seems a little weird when they announce new versions and also delay, but if anything, it almost seems like that is a decision that is being made on the fly, that the publisher says, yeah, let's give you some more money, but also let's release this on more consoles because we think that this will actually be a better seller. And the delay very well may be 100% due to the fact that they're making console versions for the PS5 and the Xbox Series. But I would tend to suspect that maybe the PC version and Switch versions also just need work. Maid Cafe on Electric Street launches this summer. We may be hitting a point too where it's playing into the tropes a little too often. Yeah. Too many anime girls, too many maid cafes, too many cat cafes, too many cat video games in general. The action strategy game Birdgeist for PC launches this fall. I saw something about a Bollywood based game, and I thought it would have had an article talking about that, but apparently not. Well, it looked not very Bollywood-like anyways, but maybe on Wednesday we'll be talking about a Bollywood-inspired game. And then Barista Simulator game Tokyo Coffee Grinding in the Pandemic for PC launches in July. And I think that's old news, so I don't think I'll make another YouTube short on that. Yeah. Bollywood is just so much of so much that making a video game inspired by it would be really over the top, and not sure it makes sense. And inherently Bollywood is generally, in my mind, described as being very over the top, very kind of silly, very big production on a low budget. Once you start talking about a video game, there's no such thing as a low budget, and big production means big budget. So the ideas of making a Bollywood film, I just don't think that's going to directly translate to making a Bollywood video game. A true Bollywood video game would be some small indie thing that just has a lot of dance numbers and craziness to it, which would then have to be animated and would throw the budget too high. We only have like 2 GameDeveloper.com articles at most here. The lawsuit, or a lawsuit, alleges Activision and Meta bear responsible for the Uvalde school shooting. A pair of lawsuits allege that Meta, Activision, and the rifle company Daniel Defense are partially responsible for the carnage at the Uvalde school shooting. This is the kind of lawsuit that I imagine won't go through, but who knows? There's different arguments here. It would have to be, for it to really hold some weight in my mind, that either the rifle manufacturer knew they were selling the gun directly to somebody that shouldn't have had the gun, a kid I believe, or that Facebook or an Instagram parent company allowed specific plans and conversations to happen in direct messages or posts, and that some kind of conversation or planning happened in the chat during Call of Duty as far as Activision. Otherwise, on the face of it, this feels like this is a lawsuit that is just targeting 3 companies who are getting the blame that they probably don't deserve. Yeah, freedom of speech in general is not going to let a case go through if the argument is just that they are glorifying violence or making weaponry easy to access, and most of these companies do not have anything to do with the ability to purchase real weapons. This seems like a ridiculous lawsuit on the face of it, but I'm always open to hearing interesting legal arguments as to how it might go through, or if there's actual evidence of something weirder going through. And then, yeah, the only other GameDeveloper.com headline we even have here is that ESA appointed Sue Madden as the new executive director, and that was a while ago. So yeah, even starting late, this was a fairly short stream today, which is fine. Yeah, maybe I'll play a little bit more Yu-Gi-Oh! Later. That's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, and keep on watching. Also today, since it was a short stream, see if you can find that how-to video on my channel and see if you can watch it and give me any feedback. That would be very much appreciated. Thanks. Bye.